Hello, everybody. My name is William St. Amant. This is our group presentation for our 102 class. Our group consists of Francis Nolan, myself, Samantha Castronovo, and James Patag. We will be presenting on the MGM Grand Hotel fire.
Here are a few images of the fire. You can see in the top left, it is the MGM Grand out front. Bottom left, you have some of the inside damages. Top right, you have a picture of the casino from a far out view. And the bottom right, you have some of the damages inside with the firefighters on the fire ground. An introduction, the fire was in Las Vegas, Nevada at the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino. The date was November 21st, 1980. It remains to date one of the deadliest hotel fires in U.S. history. The fire caused substantial casualties, including both death and injury tolls. This particular fire had significant impact to fire safety and prevention regulations, resulting in changes to building codes and safety standards within the hospitality industry. What happened? So the fire began in a deli on the first floor and immediately began spreading to nearby flammable materials. It spread quickly due to a lack of poor fire prevention. This included flammable construction materials, open design of the casino, and lack of fire barriers. Smoke and toxic fumes spread rapidly throughout the building up into the towers. These factors together created a situation that would escalate rapidly and pose to be difficult to contain. Continuation, the fire stayed on the first floor. However, the smoke and fumes spread up the towers. Eventually, the fire was contained. However, the damage and victim losses were disastrous. That included death, injuries, the doors of the casino to close, a loss in revenue, lawsuits, and several code review and updates. Here's a plot plan diagram of the first floor of the casino. Again, this floor is where the fire occurred. It was just the smoke and fumes that went up into the towers away from the first floor. Here's another floor diagram. This one pinpoints where the damage was. If you look at the legend on the left, you can see where the fire originated, where the fire damage occurred, some of the elevators, and then those small dots are locations of victims. Here's a building diagram, just a view from the outside. If you want, you can read some of those boxes around, as well as you can see where the fireball shot out of the building onto Las Vegas Boulevard. It also pinpoints where the deli was at in the building, and then you can see some of the helicopters that assisted in fighting the fire, which we'll get into later. The victims, there were 85 deaths as a result of the fire. 83 occurred on that day. One was found a day later in an elevator, and the last victim died weeks later of complications in a hospital. Below that, you can see the known causes of death with the numbers included. There was smoke inhalation and CO2 poisoning, smoke inhalation solely, burns and smoke inhalation, burns solely, myocarditis, and a skull fracture for a victim that jumped from one of the towers. Approximately 600 guests and employees were injured from the fire. Approximately 35 involved firefighters sought out medical care, with 200 to 300 more experiencing issues and did not seek out care.
For the Clark County Fire Department, the most probable source of ignition in the fire was heat produced from electrical short-circuiting of an underground conductor to a flexible metal conductor. Other causes include available fuels, building arrangements, lack of adequate fire barriers, lightweight fuels such as plastic, paper, and combustible interior finish, HVAC system design deficiencies, alarm system design. The key areas of the fire did not have sprinklers under the assumption a fire could be quickly contained.
The mechanisms contributing to the spread of smoke were a poorly designed and improperly functioning HVAC system that was kept operational during the fire. Weak smoke dampers within the ventilation ducts did not provide sufficient ventilation and thus allowed toxic fumes to accumulate and spread. Other contributing factors that compounded these elements were the elevator shafts were built too close to the kitchen areas and worked as a speed tunnel for smoke to travel throughout the floors of the hotel. Fire doors were also not closed during the fire and therefore allowed faster and thorough distribution of the smoke throughout the hotel.
Major fire damage was almost entirely limited to the casino level and second floor office area. Damage made it clear which areas were equipped with sprinklers and which areas weren't. There was no evidence of flame damage in the sprinkler Barrymore's restaurant next to the deli on the south side. In the Hall of Fame, it was very clear the fire stopped right where the sprinkler started. The fire took down the hotel registration, the deli, the Orleans Coffee House, the Parisian Bar, and the West End Hall of Fame. After the fire, the MGM Grand was torn down and rebuilt with advanced fire safety features.
Fire suppression timeline. At 7:16 a.m. on Friday, November 21st, the Las Vegas Clark County Fire Alarm Office received a call reporting a fire at the deli at the MGM Grand Hotel. At 7:17, the Clark County Fire Department was notified and dispatched a first alarm response. This was 4 engines, 1 ladder, 1 hose wagon, 1 rescue, 1 battalion chief, and 23 firefighters. At 7:19, the crew of Engine 11 reported smoke showing. Following this, at 7:21, they transmitted a second alarm, bringing 4 additional engines, a ladder truck, another battalion chief, and another rescue truck. Upon arrival at 7:22, the first battalion chief observed the fire, requested traffic control, and reported they were working in Evolution 3, which was basically a third alarm. This brought the fire chief, 3 assistant fire chiefs, another battalion chief, utility company personnel, and support personnel. By 7:26, this battalion chief had requested ambulances on scene, and shortly after, the deputy chief issued a med alert, which brought all available ambulances to the scene. Around 7:30 a.m., a police helicopter called to all available helicopters in the area to assist with rescue operations. By approximately 8:30 a.m., the main fire was mostly controlled, but evacuation efforts still continued for the next 3 hours. The fire was fully extinguished by 3 p.m., and rescue efforts ceased around the same time. This is a diagram of the fire suppression, which really helps to illustrate just how involved the suppression efforts were with this fire. Suppression and rescue. This fire saw a massive suppression and rescue effort by multiple agencies and departments. These included Clark County Fire Department, Metro Police Department, North Las Vegas Fire Department, Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, Henderson Fire Department, and additional air support was supplied from Nellis Air Force Base. There were approximately 500 firemen involved in suppression and rescue efforts during this fire. 15 different fire apparatuses were used, and at the time of the fire, there was approximately 5,000 people in the hotel. It is estimated that approximately 300 were rescued from the roof of the hotel. I've also seen reports stating up to 1,000 were rescued from the roof of the hotel. Fire prevention deficiencies. There are numerous fire prevention deficiencies that contributed to the severity of this incident. The most notable was the fact that there was only partial installation of sprinklers. Major parts of this building were open 24 hours, and this allowed the hotel to have a loophole where they weren't required to put fire sprinklers in those areas that were 24 hours. The logic was that somebody would see the fire and extinguish it. The deli, however, was initially 24 hours when the hotel first opened, but after a short while, it became they changed their hours, so it would be closed for several hours every night. It's estimated that if the deli had fire sprinklers, this fire would have only needed 1 to 2 sprinklers to actually extinguish the fire. Another major deficiency was the numerous unprotected and inadequately protected vertical shafts. These were ventilation shafts, stairwells, and elevator shafts. The HVAC system as well wasn't smoke-proof. They had smoke dampers installed on the HVAC, but they weren't done correctly, and they failed to shut during the fire. These deficiencies, along with the fact that the alarm system failed to sound during the fire, it wasn't actually fireproof. These are what contributed to the death toll of this incident. Code changes. Code changes following the MGM Grand fire were slow, but approximately 90 days after this fire, there was another hotel fire, which quickly prompted lawmakers to enact several code changes. These included the requirement for automatic sprinklers in all buildings taller than 55 feet, and there was no grandfather exceptions. All new buildings with 3 stories or more were required to have sprinklers as well. Positive pressure ventilation or shafts, so elevator shafts and stairs were positively pressurized so that people would have a clear path to escape. Um, Requirement of automatic elevator recalls that returned elevators to specific landings during fires, required heating ventilation shutoffs. It required extensive fire alarm systems that wouldn't fail during a fire. It also required evacuation maps on the back of every hotel room door.
The MGM fire had significant impact for safety of fire, for fire safety and prevention. This impacted both knowledge, skill, and techniques in firefighting, as well as strategic offensive prevention measures in all structures. These considerations in the MGM fire also caused there to be many changes in fire codes and safety standards in the hospitality industry. With 500 firefighters involved in the fire suppression effort, the MGM fire showed how multiple fire departments and agencies could work together in suppressing fire and saving thousands of lives. Because of the MGM fire, there have been critical changes in codes, including evacuation sprinkler systems are required and better design and placement of elevators. These changes in codes will continue to provide superior fire protection in all buildings and ultimately also allow firefighters to be safer during their operations in active structure fires.
This last slide just shows some of the references we used in preparing this presentation. Thank you.